Dear of the 75th session of the UN General Assembly. However, we are compensating through this online format, and I would like to thank you so much for accepting this invitation to what I hope will be a constructive and fruitful discussion. And I would like also to thank you for accepting the theme of this informal ministerial meeting, which is focusing on enhancing our cooperation post-COVID-19, the need of innovative priorities of action to be addressed in the framework of the BISEC organization. As far as the agenda of the meeting goes, I would first hold my opening remarks, briefing you on the chairmanship in office activities and some of our perspectives related to the efficient cooperation within the organization. I will afterwards invite you all for an informal exchange of views on the announced theme, and I will first ask Secretary General Președinte to present his remarks. I'm using this opportunity to extend a special welcome to Commissioner Varhelyi. Given the relevance of today's topic, as well as EU's stated commitment to the Black Sea regional cooperation, your participation is greatly appreciated. As I have mentioned, we are not meeting in usual conditions. Romania is exercising its mandate at a challenging time for the BISEC organization and for the Black Sea regional cooperation as a whole. A moment when we have to deal with the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic and with the need to focus on economic recovery and ensure resilience of our societies. Thus, today's meeting aims at giving us the opportunity of an informal exchange of views on the appropriate measures within BISEC in order to respond adequately to the economic impact of the pandemic in our region and to meet this demanding challenge in a spirit of solidarity and enhanced cohesion. But first, as I have announced, I will shortly brief you on the main activities of the Romanian chairmanship for the first semester of 2020. Distinguished colleagues, during the past month, we had to work in unprecedented circumstances, facing a major health pandemic with numerous implications, which affected both the content and the form of our chairmanship. It has been a huge adjustment for all of us, but we have managed to adapt both our agenda and working methods to the demands of the crisis, and I am grateful for the close and positive cooperation we had with all member states and with Ambassador Christides under these very difficult circumstances. There are three main elements I would like to point out regarding the activities of the Romanian chairmanship during the first semester. First, the priority of our mandate from the very beginning was solving the urgent pending issue BISEC was facing, namely the rotation of the chairmanships in office of BISEC. And I am pleased to say that through an inclusive and constructive approach, we managed to facilitate a consensual solution that is realistic, sustainable, and functional for the next three chairmanships starting from January 2021. In order to reach this agreement, Romania acted constructively and responsibly by accepting an exceptional extension of our mandate in order to fill in the second semester of 2020, so as not to see the BISEC's activity entirely blocked. And I am glad that this compromise solution has been well received and endorsed by all member states. Second, our activity has continued on the sectoral dimensions of our cooperation, despite the absence of physical meetings. In light of the pandemic, the Romanian chairmanship prioritized on its current agenda the coronavirus-related initiatives and high-level events covering key economic areas, transport and tourism, that have been the most affected by this unprecedented crisis. This gave the opportunity for experts from member states to have effective and meaningful debates, as well as to consider actions in the BISEC framework that could be helpful for a gradual recovery of tourism and transport activities in the region through coordinated action. Also, a range of BISEC bodies like the International Center for Black Sea Studies and the Business Council have engaged with experts and hosted online events designed to support member states respond to the current crisis and its consequences. Third, I have the pleasure to inform you that the draft text of the biannual UN BISEC cooperation resolution will be discussed at the informal consultations in New York under the guidance of the Romanian chairmanship. Thus, I would like to appeal to the member states to have a constructive and flexible approach so that we can adopt the resolution during the 75th session of the General Assembly, hopefully sponsored by all member states of our organization. Your Excellencies and dear colleagues, Turning to the theme of discussions today, a lot of uncertainty still persists regarding the impact of the pandemic on our economies because of the largely unpredictable way in which the coronavirus outbreak evolves. However, the macroeconomic data and the most recent forecasts from the World Bank and the IMF suggest that we all are facing economic hardship, which might lead to a negative GDP growth this year. In this context, I believe that further development of connectivity, which is one of our priorities as chairmanship in office, should be central to our country's policies in these times, with special focus on transport and digital infrastructures. On a positive note, general awareness of the need to coordinate, to exchange good practices, to help each other to reach a quicker economic recovery is greater than ever. There can be no doubt we cannot overcome the implications of a pandemic of this speed and this scale without solidarity, enhanced cohesion, and constructive action. Nobody will get through this crisis on their own. I would like to emphasize here EU solidarity towards its neighboring partners, confirmed timely and substantially at this difficult moment of crisis, as yet another proof of the strong European commitment towards our region as a whole. The entire macro-financial assistance made available by EU for the countries in the Eastern Partnership and Western Balkans stands at 5.7 billion euros, with the scope of tackling the immediate needs and supporting the social and economic recovery of the region. Moreover, EU launched the Eastern Partnership Solidarity Program to target the most affected parts of the populations with sub-grants to smaller local organizations. And I am pleased to say that Romania was able to react fast and provide considerable bilateral aid to the citizens of the Republic of Moldova, worth of 3.5 million euros, by sending medical personnel and donations of medical materials. Distinguished participants, setting ambitious priorities of action within BISEC in a future-oriented manner, with the aim to jointly address the short-term economic consequences of this crisis, is more important than ever. Forward thinking is the only way to measure up the magnitude of this challenge. In our view, moving ahead involves taking several steps, with the main focus on the need to enhance coordination and more flexibility with regard to our cooperation. First, we think that the creation of a flexible framework of cooperation within BISEC could be timely and useful, in the form of an expert-driven intergovernmental task force, which could provide national authorities with the possibility to exchange innovative ideas and best practices for overcoming this demanding challenge. The task force should be multi-sectorial and particularly geared towards the most affected economic areas, such as health, transport, trade, tourism, small and medium-sized enterprises, customs matters, science and technology, thus supplementing the recommendations of our working groups. This demarche could be a proof of our determination to forward-looking. Second, setting up BISEC networks for regional cooperation during emergency situations, like those created in case of natural disasters or in the field of healthcare, which is still under discussion, are complementary instruments to improve our risk preparedness and response within our region even further and more effectively. The Permanent Secretariat can be tasked to identify other areas of cooperation where the establishment of these coordination networks could prove useful in the context of the crisis. Third, we must also turn our attention to the added value of involving more creatively BISEC-related bodies in our demarches. A broader set of tools and opportunities could be achieved from the input and practical expertise of the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank and BISEC Business Council. This could be explored in the framework of the task force I have mentioned. I am hopeful that Ambassador Christides will share his valuable views with us on all these aspects and also put forward other ideas and proposals. Dear colleagues, we also need regionally coordinated approaches and solutions, synergetic engagement by both EU and BISEC based on a win-win approach. For this reason, Romania remains a firm supporter of developing flexible, result-oriented and closer BISEC-EU cooperation. I think that the current pandemic confirmed very clearly the need for enhancing the Black Sea regional cooperation with EU support. We can identify the most adequate response actions by making full use of the existing frameworks provided by the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, both endorsed by the Black Sea riparian countries in 2019 in Bucharest during Romania's presidency of the EU Council. The pandemic has not diminished the importance of these documents. On the contrary, their goals and recommendations are extremely relevant to the challenges we face today. While the COVID-19 pandemic severely affected most sectors, developing the blue economy could significantly help speed up the post-COVID-19 recovery, since there is a wide range of blue sectors with significant potential we can cooperate on and which could provide much-needed jobs in the region. We can also expand and include landlocked countries in wider initiatives in this field, and we can promote startups oriented towards sustainable use of maritime resources, support maritime clusters, and further encourage public-private partnerships. Further development of connectivity should not be limited to the transport and digital infrastructures. It should also envisage expanding the current network of regional stakeholders interested in forming partnerships and developing common projects in blue sectors. The Virtual Knowledge Center, a BISEC project aimed at bringing together all the relevant information on the Black Sea region, like projects, contracts, publications, calls, is increasingly relevant in this context. We are very much looking forward to its launching. Distinguished participants, approaching the end of my intervention, allow me to underline that our region will only surface strengthened from this major economic crisis if we are willing, in spite of all our differences, to find joint solutions. And if we are willing to promote better connectivity among us and within our region by building confidence and trust. This is our best alternative if we want to forge a shared vision about a sustainable progress of Black Sea region, especially in the context of a constantly evolving environment still affected by a stark crisis that brings ahead of us a long journey towards post-COVID-19 recovery. Thank you for your attention. Now I would very much appreciate having your views and remarks on the main theme under discussion today, enhancing our cooperation post-COVID-19, the need of innovative priorities of action to be addressed in the framework of the BISEC organization, so that we could jointly assess the appropriate next steps to be taken within our organization in order to contribute to the sustainable and resilient recovery of the Black Sea region. For efficiency, I invite you to keep your interventions within the announced time frame, up to 5 minutes each, and I kindly ask every participant who is not speaking to mute their microphones. It is my pleasure now to ask our Secretary General Ambassador Christides to share with us his valuable views on the way forward for our organization in these exceptional times. Ambassador Christides, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dear Minister Aurescu, can you hear me? I imagine you can. Distinguished ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I wish to sincerely thank you, Mr. Chairman, for organizing this informal meeting of basic ministers of foreign affairs, which is taking place online for the first time in the almost 30-year-long history of our organization. You, Mr. Chairman, and our dear colleagues in the Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs have the onus and the honor to host this ministerial meeting under very particular circumstances, given the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide. We in the Secretariat, and I'm sure all BISEC member states also, are grateful to you for accepting the exceptional extension of your chairmanship in order to cover the full year 2020. And of course, thank you for your decisive contribution in solving the serious problem concerning the rotation of the BISEC chairmanship, which was looming so ominously at the beginning of 2020. Yet most of all, we wish to thank you for all the efforts undertaken during the last months in order to keep this year, 2020, as normal as possible, despite the dramatic challenges imposed upon all of us. Let us only briefly remember how 6 months ago, the unforeseen magnitude and overwhelming rapidity of the pandemic's outbreak surprised most of our countries, which immediately tried their best to take measures and address the urgent needs at home. All resources and efforts were directed for solving the internal issues. This was a surely understandable expression of almost instinctive self-preservation, which characterized the initial reaction of all states. So it is obvious that the pandemic put multilateral cooperation to a new, severe test and helped also to dramatically expose previously existing fractions and tensions around our small globe. Yet most of all, I believe that the COVID-19 crisis has shown the need and urgency for more coordination and cooperation among states. I believe that at the end of this pandemic, international and regional cooperation will come out stronger and with more solid structures to support them. In this effort, our organization has a significant role to play. In fact, with the support of the Romanian chairmanship and the unwavering commitment of my colleagues in the Secretariat, the BISEC organization was able to master this first difficult period of the pandemic with relative success. I say relative because there is always room for improvement. Despite the lockdowns, the travel restrictions, and all other understandable measures in order to curb the expansion of the virus, we have achieved quite a lot during the last months. Meetings of BISEC working groups took place online, the implementation of most projects continued, new projects were initiated, funds from third sources continued to be placed at the disposal of the Secretariat. Allow me, along what you already mentioned, Mr. Minister, to name just a few indicative examples of this activity. The project for the establishment of the BISEC Regional Cooperation Center for Sustainable Food Systems has been signed by all partners. The creation with EU funding of the first ever Black Sea Virtual Knowledge Center, which you mentioned, Minister Aurescu, is already in its initial stage of functioning. The Secretariat continues to be active as a key partner in the project worth 2 million euros entitled Black Sea Connect, Coordination of Marine and Maritime Research and Innovation in the Black Sea. The BISEC Permis was designated as the implementing agency of the Blueing the Black Sea Global Environment Facility project, amounting to $6.4 million and promoted by the World Bank. We are currently working on the preparatory phase of this project. We also signed a letter of intent with the Secretariat of the Enlarged Agreement on Cultural Routes of the Council of Europe, which entered already into force. I could go on, but I want to spare you time. So just allow me to seize this opportunity and thank, first of all, the Russian Federation for its recent grant of $1 million, with which valuable projects of regional impact have taken place and continue despite the pandemic to be implemented. I also wish to thank our honored guest, Commissioner Varhali, and through him the European Commission for the grant of 400,000 euros, with which important projects on marine litter, on tourism, and on SMEs will start to be implemented until the end of the year. And also allow me to thank Turkey and Greece for their contributions to the BISEC PDF, a gesture that we hope will find imitators among all BISEC member states. Yet, ladies and gentlemen, all the above are not enough, and thus the idea of the Romanian chairmanship to host today a discussion and exchange of views on the need of innovative priorities of action is more than timely and pertinent. I'm confident that the outcome of this informal meeting will offer a further impetus to all of us to surpassing the difficulties created by the pandemic, and why not help us increase the role and relevance of the organization, not only in the Black Sea region, but also beyond it. So in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I'm confident that today's discussion will offer valuable ideas and ways to enhance the efficiency and productivity of our organization. So that when we meet again at the end of the Romanian chairmanship, hopefully in person in the beautiful city of Bucharest, we will be able to take stock of all the achievement of this really extraordinary year. Thank you for your kind attention. The floor back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, dear Ambassador, dear Secretary General